I'm excited to introduce the Director of Student Success Center and Strategic Initiatives for the Washington State Board of Community College and Community and Technical College, as well as an amazing comedian that I know, Monica Wilson.
I'm a comedian, everybody. You heard it from Nekaycha first. Hi, Monica. I'm Monica, and I'm really excited to be here. And I'm just going to say a couple of words real quick about the Ideal Fellowship, as it is a really special part of our Guided Pathways work in Washington State. We know that student voice and community voice and sharing power is essential to transforming our systems and the experience of students across our campuses and our system of 34 community and technical colleges. So I'm really excited to learn more about what the students across the colleges selected for this fellowship, the work that they've been doing over this quarter and some of last. And I want to just share that one of my reflections of this fellowship is really that as this part winds down, the research that the students have been doing together, it really provides a new opportunity to pick up the work on campus. So we're joined here by campus members and leaders to hear about the work that students have been doing. And I really want to encourage everyone from a campus to really think about what does it look like to partner with the fellows and to take their ideas and thinking and research and plans to the next step? What does it look like to really integrate student thinking around these topics and other topics on the campus as part of Guided Pathways work, but also ultimately a positive college climate and culture and moving forward equity work? And to the fellows, I just want to say thank you for all of your work. I'm excited to see what you have to share. And just a reminder that this is an opportunity to share your best thinking so far and your good ideas, and that there's still lots of room to continue to flesh them out and to play with them and to understand the context that you've been studying. And so thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Nekaycha, I'm sorry I didn't say anything funny. Maybe there will be a chance for that later. But really just excited to be here with everyone today to celebrate the work of the student fellows.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's okay. We will love to hear jokes later on, maybe for those fellows that continue the work with Washington State Board. You'll be able to hear a lot of Monica's jokes. Now we are also, just for reference in the chat, if you are representing technical college, please put your campus or where you work and also your position. We'd love to see who is represented here as well. We are going to go on to our keynote speaker, who is none other than Dr. Jeremiah Sims. He is a dedicated and devoted husband to Rachel Sims, and also a father of, I believe it's 6 boys. Did I get that right? Is it 6? 6. I'm seeing head nods. Okay. Because I just had a little baby Justice. He's also an educator, a prolific author. He is also an illustrious alumni of University of California, Berkeley. He has a BA in rhetoric, as well as honors. He has an MA and also PhD in education. He's had an honorable career in education and is currently the principal consultant of Rooted in Love and also the co-owner of Acton Academy Reading. It's a school that empowers children to find their unique calling and learn the skills of life. So please, everyone, if you could put a little reaction or a little hand clap in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Jeremiah Sims.
What's up? I'm glad that you all are here. It's good to see your lovely faces. So I want to talk about a couple things. And so I guess I'll give y'all some context on Ideal. So Ideal was birthed when a lot of seemingly social justice oriented things were birthed, right around 2020, right? So, you know, on the tail end of the pseudo racial reckoning that we saw, right? That we witnessed, that some of us were a part of, post George Floyd and Tony McDade and Breonna Taylor, right? The kind of wanton disregard for Black bodies that catalyzed a call that was trying to make clear that Black lives matter too, right? So the two is not part of BLM as an organization. I'm not even worried. I'm not focusing on the organization itself, but the call. And so we started to have conversations about what it would mean to radically decenter white supremacy and cis heteropatriarchy and misogyny and all these different things. And just, you know, 3.5 years later, many of those same initiatives are under attack. In fact, many of those same initiatives and the positions that those initiatives catalyzed have been shuttled, right? So there has been a kind of attack on DEI, right? Especially in the middle parts of America, right? And in some spaces, even on the coasts. And there has been an overwhelming divestment in equity-related work. And so I just want to, I'm saying all that to say, to shout out, you know.
It's okay. You can go. What is it?
I think Rachel doesn't. Rachel, you got to mute, honey. So this radical divestment of resources in DEI is ugly, but it's not unexpected. Like I'm almost sad about the work that has been diminished and disregarded, but I'm also sad about how predictable it is, right? And so at the same time, in saying all that, right, I want to commend SBCTC, irrespective of whether or not they're working with Rooted in Love or whomever else, for staying committed to doing the necessary work to create spaces where all students, irrespective of their ethno-racial identity, their socioeconomic status, whether or not their justice impacted, can enter into community college spaces, which are open source, right? Spaces where anybody should be able to attend and pursue whatever dreams that they have, whatever educational human dreams that they have. And I want to shout out SBCTC with Monica at the helm of the work that we do for continuing to invest time and time again, not only in the work, but in actual people, right? Tangible people, the people that you will hear from during today's presentation. So this is our fifth, you can believe it or not, this is our fifth cohort of IDEAL. And if y'all don't know, IDEAL stands for the Initiative in Diversity, Equity, Anti-Racism, and Leadership. And just to give you a quick breakdown, and then I'll talk about policy a little bit, because this is what the IDEAL Fellows primarily are analyzing. The reason why we are focused on anti-racism is because we believe that many of the policies that we have, so this is not just limited to education, but I'm speaking specifically about education now. Many of the policies that we have, educational policies that we have, penalize poor students for being poor. And so no one, or we would like to believe that no one would do that on purpose. No one's doing that intentionally. It is not pernicious, but yet it still is still happening, right? If anyone here has ever been a struggling student, the last thing you want to receive, right, is any type of block on your registration, because that block on your registration could be enough to derail even the most promising semester. I'm someone who went through community college. It took me more than 8 years to get through community college, and I'm going to tell you all a story. And this is an accurate, not accurate. This is real, right? This is my story. And so I was going to school. I was taking 12 units. This is maybe my third or fourth foray into community college. And I had a job too, but my job was 40 miles away from my community college. This is the way it worked out, because community college was close to my house. And I worked the night shift, loading and unloading forklifts. And so I had a car at that time. It was a older Buick, and I'd run out of gas like 2 days prior to going to work, just because I neglected to go to the gas station. It was my own fault. Gas was a lot cheaper than I can actually afford. I remember gas was about 99 cents a gallon at this time. And so I had to use a gas can in order to fill up the car. And I left the gas can in the back seat of the car. And I didn't think anything of it. I drove around like that for a couple of days. because that was the weekend. Then I needed to go to work. I left school, got in the car, left school in Richmond, California, went to go to work in Hayward, California. And I was on the highway and I kept smelling smoke. And I was like, man, what's happening? Like I'm looking all around trying to figure out what's going on. I looked in the back seat and the back seat was in flames. It was literally in flames. So I'm driving on the highway 75 miles an hour and my back seat is on fire. And there's so much smoke in the car that I couldn't see what I was doing. So I just got off. I just got over all 4 lanes, right? By the grace of God, I didn't harm anyone else and I wasn't harmed. And when I pulled off in Oakland, I pulled off right across the street from the fire department. But because so many people were interested in what was going on, and I had a bunch of belongings in the car too, because sometimes I would sleep in the car because during my breaks, because it was night shift. I worked from like 10 a.m. to like 4 a.m., 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And so anyhow, I'm in the car, right? I'm right across the street from the fire department, but the fire department can't get to the car to put out the fire because there are too many cars that are stopped watching the flames. And so the car ended up burning up. They got my information. I left to go to the BART station, our Bay Area public transit system, so that I can get to work on time. I got to work on time. And so it's really far. By the time I got off in the morning, there were no buses running. So it's really far from the BART station to where I worked. It was like about 4 or 5 miles, right? So it was quite a walk, even though I was young and spry at that time. I had a coworker who used to ride a bike back and forth from the BART station, and he had recently purchased a car. And so the bike was just sitting there. I was like, hey man, can I buy that bike from you? He was like, sure. You can buy it for $40. Gave him $40, bought the bike. So at 4 o'clock in the morning when I got off, I'm riding the bike. I just bought it that day. I'm riding the bike to the BART station, and then I got pulled over by Hayward police, right? They said I got pulled over because I didn't have a light on the bike that I had just purchased hours earlier, right? Hadn't had a chance to put a light on the bike. And then instead of him just informing me that I had I needed a bike light, he took me to jail for a $300 warrant because someone used my driver's license when they got pulled over. They knew my number, and they used my license when they got pulled over. And whoever it was, purportedly a friend of mine, never told me about it. So the tickets went to their address. They didn't come to my address. So I never combated those tickets. But still, a $300 warrant doesn't require a law enforcement officer to take you to jail, right? It's up to their discretion at that point. It's $300 warrant. You can just say, okay, just show up to court. But instead, he took me to jail. And because it was a $300 warrant and I didn't have $300 in my pocket, no bail bonds person is going to come to bail me out for $30 because they only get 10%, right? It's not worth their time to come at 4:30 in the morning to come bail me out. So I had to spend the weekend in jail. Sorry, it wasn't the weekend. That was Monday. So I had to spend 2 nights in jail before I could see the judge. And because of that, I missed work. And then I was fired because I missed work, right? And so all these things happen based on policies that exist. You understand? So you see how, right, just getting gas in a gas can is a particular circumstance. It's not indicative of my character. Oftentimes, the policies that we are forced to adhere to, the policies that we go throughout our days, not questioning, the policies that disproportionately impact poor people simply because they're poor, right? Or people for whom English is not their first language simply because they were born to parents who speak a language, a primary language other than English, right? These policies created a space where people felt as though people felt as though they were policing my character, right? And that's, you think about it, right? So policy and police have the same root, right? And it's about control, right? It's about controlling behavior, controlling comportment. And so oftentimes the policies that we adhere to, the policies that govern the way that we interface with one another or interface with the students that we serve, or even our colleagues, when we don't question those things, we become complicit in systems of oppression, right? So that police officer, right? You know, I don't know if he didn't like me because I was Black. I don't know. Our exchange was very short. But the reality was there was a policy that penalized me. And then once I went to jail, right? It's not super fun to go to jail. I know everybody's been to county jail before. It's not awesome, right? And then the policy at that time with regard to cash bails, right? that policy made it so that I couldn't just give $30 and be free. I needed to post the whole bill. I didn't walk around with $300 in my pocket. The $40 that I had in my pocket, I'd give it to my coworker for the bike. And so I'm saying all this to say, right, that if we think that policies are going to uh, uh, control people's character because there's something inherently flawed about their character, and we know that certain people have presumed innocence and other people don't, right? And those usually break down along gendered and ethno-racial and even socioeconomic and religious lines of demarcation, right? If we continue to simply enforce the policies that we inherit without questioning who benefits and who is negatively impacted by those policies, because I would argue every policy positively impacts some and negatively impacts others, right? Then we are complicit in systems of oppression. And so there's a quote from Ibram Kendi, and I'm not a huge Kendi fan, but I think that he hit the nail on the head and thinking about policy, right? And so his argument is that racism in and of itself is a marriage of racist policies and racist ideas that in concert produce and normalize racialized inequities. So you have racist ideas, right? You think that people are different, that they're not as, right? So there's this idea around, I'll take it aside. There's this idea around dehumanization that David Livingstone Smith talks about in his book, Making Monsters. And he said that there's these kind of two dueling conceptions of dehumanization. There's weak dehumanization and there's strong dehumanization. Weak dehumanization is usually about deservedness. You feel like people are a little less deserving than you are because they're not as human as you are, right? They may be trans, they may be queer, they may be black, they may be brown, whatever they are, they're just not the same as you. So they don't deserve the same presumed innocence or same kind of rights to certain things. And then there's this idea of strong dehumanization, where it's not that you think of people as less human, you think of people as less than human, right? So their humanity and their radical dignity is not something that is worth being maintained or fought for, right? And so the idea of this racist ideas are inherently and intrinsically dehumanizing, right? The strong sense. These are not people. Not only are they not people who don't deserve things, they're not people. And it's essentializing. And so when we have, but I would argue, right, and people can disagree, and that's totally okay, that I don't really care about individuals that have racist ideas. That's not my problem. That's their purgatory, right? That's the space that they have to occupy. And they're limiting themselves from the full range of human experiences if they refuse to interact with certain groups of people just because of the families that they're born into, right? That's their problem. But it becomes my problem when those racist ideas are codified and made into policy, right? Because at that point, you get systemic, structural, and institutionalized racism. It doesn't matter if there's one individual racist person. It matters if those policies, the policies that govern the way that we interface with students and coworkers, are patently racist. Then we run into issues. And so to that note, and Kendi says, a racist policy is any measure that produces or sustains racial inequity between racial groups. He says, by policy, I mean written or unwritten laws, rules, procedures, processes, regulations, and guidelines that govern people. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make the work that Ideal fellows are doing tangible, right? So we can have conversations, and sometimes it felt like we ran out of time. Like we could have used more time. We talked about things like, racialized tropes and how they were made manifest and concretized through blackface minstrelsy. Or we talked about looking at anti-Asian hate, figuring out how to stamp that out while also ensuring that it isn't used as a vehicle to promulgate anti-blackness. We talked about the history of whiteness and racism, racialized capitalism, all these different things, but we wanted them to be able to replicate something that is referred to as the cycle of critical praxis, right? We want folks to be able to understand the theory and concepts necessary to do this work, but also to reflectively put those things into action. And so that's what happens. So just to give you all a kind of practical view, during our sessions with Ideal scholars, we would have conversations that were based on an ethnic studies curriculum where we unpacked these kind of concepts around race, around capitalism, hegemony, power, all these different things. And then they were given a tool called the Impact Equity Framework, which Rachel will talk more about later. Impact is another acronym. It stands for Innovative, Measurable, Purposeful, Anti-Racist, Caring, and Transformative. It's a rubric that helps people vet policies, procedures, and pedagogies to ensure their commensurability with social justice. And so students were taking their newfound knowledge and trying to put it to work. Because when you do that in a reflective way, right, that information becomes yours because you can not only operationalize it, but you can actually actualize it. And so the goal throughout our time together was to create spaces, safe spaces for students to question terms that they may have heard in other places, terms that may have been defined correctly, terms that may have been defined incorrectly, so that they can operationalize those things and actually make positive shifts towards a more just society. I like to think of myself as a fledgling pragmatic philosopher. Cornel West defines that thusly. He says a pragmatic philosopher is someone who is seeking to build community within catastrophe, right? Racism, white supremacy, cis heteropatriarchy, trans antagonism, anti-Blackness, anti-Asian sentiment, anti-immigrant, all those things are catastrophic, right? And so we're trying to figure out how to build community within those things. And that's what the ideal fellowship is focused on, because when you have community, you can build solidarity, and solidarity is unstoppable. So I'm really excited for you all to see the work that the ideal fellows have done thus far. And it's, they had to do it really quickly, right? And I just want you all to see what they've done, because it's incredible, because they are our future. But not only that, they're our present, right? And I want to go in with this June Jordan quote. When June Jordan talks about, how is it that society is going to change? She said what? She said, we are who we've been waiting for. So ladies and gentlemen in the audience, this is who we've been waiting for. It's our ideal scholars who are going to help lead us to a more just society. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll be around. I'm sure I'll be busy in the chat. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to pass it to my partner in life and in love, Rachel Sims.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I'm going to share my screen once more, just to give folks in the audience who are not familiar with Impact. I'm going to go do a quick overview of what this process has looked like before we get into the presentations. So as Jeremiah mentioned, this is the acronym. And what it is really an equity framework for evaluating policies and practices on campus. It asks really critical questions. It's helping a team of people take a look at an issue through a really particular lens to understand how it impacts specific groups of people on campus. This is what the process looks like. It is initially they did some brainstorming in their teams to come up with a bunch of ideas, and then they narrowed it down to one topic. And in that topic, really, they spent the bulk of the project on a deep dive into understanding what the problem is. It is Albert Einstein who said that if he had 60 minutes to solve the world's problems, he would spend 55 defining the problem and 5 minutes on the actual solution to the problem. So really, this is what the teams have done, is really taken a dive into understanding what the actual issue is, not taking things at face value, not making assumptions, but really trying to dig in, investigate further, ask critical questions, discuss amongst themselves, share their personal experiences, look out for other experiences. Some of them put together surveys. They have reached out to several people on campus. They've done a lot of research into trying to understand the issue. And then they've packaged it up real nice into a very short presentation for us. And at the end of their presentations, they make some recommendations for change. So this is the process they went through over the last few months together. They've really put a lot of effort into these presentations, into these projects, and we are expecting, as always, some really to be enlightened with what they share with us today. So without further ado, this is our lineup today. So we're going to hear from 4 different teams. This is the topics that we're going to be hearing about. First is Green River College. What makes tutoring services successful for underrepresented students? Lower Columbia is presenting on the accessibility of childcare with waitlist and limited hours. Olympic College is the financial and academic impact of book costs. And finally, Skagit Valley College is looking into the financial aid policy. And so we're going to take, we'll pass it to Green River College. They're going to share their own slides. And after the presentation, we'll be able to have a few minutes for Q&A with the audience. So as you're listening, take note of anything you have questions of, or if you want to make some comments or share some feedback or encouragement back with the team, we encourage you to do so. So I will stop sharing now and pass it off to our first speaker at Green River College.
Good afternoon, guys. I'm going to just share my screen real quick. Oh, let's see. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Lopez Wilkerson, and I am a current student at Green River Community College. Our project before you today is about what makes tutoring services successful for underrepresented students. Along with all the pressures of today's society that puts on students, asking for help is one of the hardest parts, especially when it comes to asking for help in your academic field. Some things that could help is if all your resources are organized effectively to cater to your culturally diverse student body, such as Green River. With our project, we decided to do a case study comparing a successful tutoring resource on Green River to the other resources on the campus. We chose TRIO, which prioritizes low-income and marginalized students and students with disabilities. They also have a get-to-know tutor section on their website and also a high return of students for their services. Whereas for the other tutoring services at Green River, it's available for everyone. However, they do have separate resources and websites for every tutoring, so it's all scattered within the internet. And there's no translation available, which is an especially huge problem for Green River's huge international student body. On to my other teammate, Danielle.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the actual data part that I got into. I talked to a lot of people on the campus. So one big problem we noticed was a lot of miscommunication. And I feel like a lot of different quotes that I could have put in here emphasize that. But some of the big quotes that I wanted to put in is one of the international students I know, she said, "It feels like international students get overlooked. We're not told about any tutoring resources over at the international office. We don't even get flyers." Going into that a little bit more real quick, she was saying that she didn't even know about half the resources when she first moved here. They kind of do like a little class, but it's not enough for them to feel like they actually know what's going on. I was talked to the director of the Math Learning Center quite a bit. I got some data from her and just had some really good discussions. And so she said at one point, honestly, talking to you about this stuff made me think, what can I change? Even just having these conversations is a step for improvement. And then the first one that I put in, I wanted to add that at the end, is specifically about TRIO. This is actually our other partner for this project. Shells, she said, "I feel if I didn't have TRIO support, I would have failed. I 100% would have dropped out." She was emphasizing how there were a couple classes where she just desperately needed help and no one was willing to help her or able, kind of throwing her around everywhere too. And she finally ended up in TRIO and they made a huge difference for her. And then just real quick for myself, why I chose this topic was I'm passionate about is because I had my own struggles. I really, when I first came in to Green River as an older student, I had significant challenges trying to figure out where to go. People were giving me wrong information, not maliciously, but it was quite a struggle to add on to the other issues of coming back to school and things. And then so the case study, the TRIO student support services that we have at Green River, we chose that one because they seem to have really good results and it's only getting better. So the first graph on the left is the national number of students or participants served, just to give an idea of the different types of people that they take care of, and showing that the percentages are pretty good on when people were utilizing TRIO, they were pretty successful in that time frame they wanted. And the second graph I made was just a general trend about the percentage of TRIO students that utilize the tutoring at Green River specifically. They only had one tutor for a while, and then you can see the trend started getting higher and higher because they desperately needed more people. So this percentage for the projected trend is just projected because we don't have the numbers yet, obviously, for this quarter, but I just wanted to show that because we actually moved up to like 5 tutors. So this graph is a general comparison. I had surprisingly a hard time getting more data from other tutoring resources. So I noticed that Green River doesn't really prioritize that kind of stuff. It made it a little difficult, which kind of just emphasizes again that there could be more stuff done to work on it. But so I put TRIO in here. This is all last quarter, winter quarter. Mesa was able to give me some numbers. So it was like about 13.3% of the students that are Mesa students. That's another program, like resource program. About 13% actually utilize the tutoring. Math Learning Center only, and this, I have 2 of them. So the Math Learning Center was in person, only about 8.4% utilized it. And then their online tutoring resource was only 1.6% out of the amount of students of like the school. And I found that to be really significant. And I think a big part of it is no one knows about it. It was another one of those resources I didn't even know about until like I started looking into this kind of stuff. And then the picture on the like right next to it is a high impact tutoring logo. Sorry, I'm thinking of a word that I found that a lot of our resources said, like through research and stuff, this is like a really good policy to try and like follow, that they got really good results. So for, oops, so we noticed the big trend of why people can't get help. It feels like tutoring services and every subject in one place for TRIO. They are pretty open about that. They have the ability to get more tutors, and if like you have a specific subject you need help in, they've been willing to like help with that. They are really, really personable. That was like a big thing we noticed. They really try and like emphasize that you're the priority, and even going in there, it felt like that right away. Other services, it was kind of a mixture. The main thing that we had issues with is like the communication, like figuring out what resources there were. So Green River's website, for instance, it's very scattered. You have to go to multiple locations to find anything, and it makes it very difficult to figure out where and when you can go to places and who can help you. And then because of all this stuff, it kind of made it a little more like cold when we went to like these different locations. So there were quite a few statistics that a lot of these are from like national statistics. I have all the references at the end. But things like randomized studies reporting 76.8% positive effects of students utilizing the high impact tutoring specifically. 74% of the students believing they benefited academically from tutoring. I believe that one was from Stanford. They did a lot of studies, extensive studies around that area. 80% of students who participated in tutoring reported an increase in low grade. That one, I believe, was part of the national study on K through 12 grades, but generally speaking, that trend can follow into adulthood. Tutoring lowers the risk of early school dropout by 30%. That was also a very big statistic that I found throughout a few different websites. And that was also kind of mixed of like the grades that they were looking into. The at-risk students tutored in math one demonstrated significant improvement mathematic achievement scores. That one was specifically the K through 12. But once again, you can very easily translate that into college. Large scale study, at least 91% of the participants showed improvement over just 2 months of tutoring. That one was also Stanford. They did extensive studying, and they were the ones that were definitely pushing. And I think they also created the setup for the high impact tutoring. And I'll bring it back to Tori.
Okay, so what can help? So my team and I brainstormed that to get the most effective and fast results would be a new and improved tutoring website. So we actually did, I did make a mock website of what it would look like. This is kind of weird because I can't see my whole screen. However, if we go to the top right here, this is the home page. It's just quick and simple. But really, I want to narc at we have everything tutoring resources available, and we also have a Meet Our Tutors section. These are student tutors at Green River. So this will help create some community amongst the campus, and then also showing all the hours of operation, ways of contact. But again, just all in one space. We saw at bigger universities, they had this implemented in their website, and I think that that would make a huge change for some good work. But let me go back to the slideshow. Oop. Let's see. Here. And then, so in essence, our goal is to see Green River College tutoring services benefit the beautifully diverse student body and campus nestled in the heart of Auburn, Washington. These are our references, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Green River. I wish we could all unmute and then just like clap loudly, like with audio. But thank you so much. That is amazing. You actually went ahead and made a webpage for your college. So I'm going to open it up. We have time for 1 to 2 questions or comments. Just raise your hand, or you can put a comment in the chat if you're not able to. Nekaycha.
I'll raise my hand because this is my group. I was their TA, and I just want to say I'm so proud of you guys. Amazing project, amazing website. I think the website looks great. And I think they forgot to add also that this website will have different translations for those that speak different languages as well as it improves. And so I think this is an amazing tool and resource that could be so helpful for your college. So I'm just a proud TA here. Thank you. Amazing job.
Any questions on their presentation about the topic? I love how you identified the humanizing aspect of TRIO that you felt like made it more successful than other programs. And then the Meet Your Tutor section on the webpage was exactly that, right from the very beginning, like people having a personal sense of who they would be interacting with. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't have a question per se, but I just I'm hoping that someone from your college is here. And because if not, y'all should make sure to reach out and find someone that can do something with this, because it's such an effective, simple solution, and it's cost effective, and your college might I would hope would eat it up. It's such a good solution, you guys. I think that was delish. Good job.
Great work. We're going to move it to our second team, which is Lower Columbia College. Go ahead and share your screen.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so like Rachel stated, we are Lower Columbia College, and our project was on the ever-growing problem on our campus, the accessibility of childcare with the waitlist and the limited hours. Our team consists of Alyssa, Taya, and me. Our campus provides an on-campus childcare center called the Lower Columbia Early Learning Center. Their mission statement is to provide high-quality on-campus childcare to support degree-seeking students through their educational journey. They are open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30 during the academic year, and Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5:30 during summer. They are closed during summer for efficiency. I'm sorry about that. To get into the Early Learning Center, you need to submit an application to the waitlist, where there's no guarantee you will be accepted. Once you've been accepted, you have to fill out an actual enrollment form. The demographics of this college are presented here on the screen, and we found that within our research, the topic of multiple data points were unavailable, such as the student parents that were unsuccessful in their educational pursuits, the number of ELL students using childcare, how many students were successful in their usage of the facility, student using and needing resources by their race. And then we decided that this lack of collected data means that the faculty is truly unaware of who they are serving and the impact of their services. And we can find over here that a large portion of our student body is actually student parents. Almost half of our students are student parents, and the majority of those student parents are single students who do not have a partner to help to support them. And the problem is, for our project, the Early Learning Center hours do not align with when classes are scheduled. The Lower Columbia College website states, our primary mission at the Early Learning Center is to support LCC student parents achieve their goals and graduate. With their hours being 7:30 to 5:30, as we previously had gone over, and classes mainly running from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., with the exception of 3 classes starting at 8:30 a.m., their hours seem to be more helpful to staff and faculty than to students they are meant to serve. This practice perpetuates structural inequality because students who need to take a night class are unable to use the campus childcare and may have no choice but to drop the class or drop out entirely. There is also no additional reasons for why their hours are this or why they kept their waitlist so long. I am going to pass on to my partner, Taya.
Staff member story. A staff member shared during a late night ELL class, there was an issue with students having no one to watch their children while attending. Because most of the students were having the same issue, they decided to use an empty room and have each parent watch all of the kids before switching throughout the class. This continued for a few weeks until supervisors shut it down due to liability and safety concerns. Some students in that class decided not to re-enroll the following quarter because of a lack of childcare. This has been an ongoing issue with students in ELL and similar classes for years, and there still hasn't been anything done to support these students. It makes sense for this operation to get shut down with not having an approved childcare provider watching the children, but the school missed an opportunity to create a better and more equitable place of learning, or even demonstrate that they cared for the students and the barrier they were having. So why should we care? 70%, first of all, this data is taken from the Institute for Women's Policy Research, October 2021 report. 70% of student parents are mothers. 43% of all student parents are single mothers. 53% of student parents are students of color. 42% of student parents are enrolled at community colleges. This is the mission of the Early Learning Center program: to provide high quality on-campus childcare to support degree-seeking students during their educational journey. However, the times that are available for childcare leaves many students facing conflict when it comes to class times. And according to the national data, this disproportionately impacts minority student groups at the college, as they are the demographics that would typically benefit from this service. So up here we have when the Early Learning Center is closed. So we have two ELL classes, 2 contextualized English classes, 8 art classes, and 24 other courses, leaving a total of 36 courses students may not be able to take because the Child Care Center is closed. We don't have a simple solution, but we We don't have a simple solution, and we know it won't be easy to change the hours, but we want to leave you with our vision. Childcare that is offered during all classes without waitlist, where LTC will provide opportunities for childcare scholarships. The school will collect data on the impact childcare has on student success and the quality of life and who is impacted by these services or the lack of. Students will feel the childcare center is accessible and doesn't act as a barrier to them graduating or completing courses. Additionally, information will be shared with students on why they have the policies they do. This will help foster a more honest and caring environment for student parents, which is 42% of the LCC student population. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a huge issue, 42%. Okay, so I'm going to open it up here for questions or comments from the audience. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I have a question. So is there a policy, and I guess I might have answered my own question now that I'm processing it in my head, but is there a policy that allows you to bring your kids to the class, like inside class? Or do you know by any chance? I guess the reason why I said it might have answered my own question is because it might be like a safety concern or a liability issue. But and I know everyone's situation's different when it comes to their kids. And I've done it before. I don't know if it was allowed, but I brought my kid to class, but she's 5. I mean, she's a little bit older than what some other people's kids might be. But yeah, I was just curious. I don't know if that's something you've looked into.
I think that some of the faculty has tried to allow that, like with the story we shared. And it is a safety concern because there isn't someone who's background checked, like watching the children, and it can be distracting. But also, if we know that that's a barrier for people, then I feel like the school should be addressing that.
I agree.
I also do think it's important to acknowledge that while there may not be specific policies that children cannot come into classes, it can still be an incredible distraction to the parent themselves because they're focused on the child and not their education.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kelsey?
Yeah, I actually, Becky just wrote something I was thinking about as well. As I found what you guys highlighted at the beginning with the data that was missing. That in itself was really compelling because that's like some really important data points of who that they should and could be serving. My question was if you guys found any information about crossover with like funding from the state for childcare. Did you at all come across anything for your specific college or statewide stuff?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We looked so hard because the thing is that there's because we have the early childhood degree, and so students are in the daycare, like essentially providing help, but so we're like, they have to be getting grants somewhere, but we couldn't get answers. And Alyssa, our other partner, she tried very hard and sent a lot of emails and CC'd a lot of people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great work. And to the audience, we have access to these presentations and we can share them out upon request. So we are going to go ahead and move it to the next team. Now we have Olympic College. Go ahead and feel free to share your screen.
All right. Let me get my things situated. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Right. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Roger Oliver, along with my peer Christina Woodworth, presenting for Olympic College. In addition to us, we also have Rhonda Holland, Tom Hubner, Daniel John, and Vanessa Sandhill. The focus of this presentation is the cost of affording required tax on students. And before I continue, I want to address that the connection between the institution and its stakeholder is crucial. A major function of a university is to access and accredit learning by conferring qualifications and degrees. Thus, the relationship between the stakeholder and an institution is measurable. What we are proposing will advance equity and accessibility to minoritized students at Olympic College, especially students who have financial barrier. Our initiative is predicated on holistic care and concern for students' lives in and outside of the school. Improving equity requires us to continuously examine our campus climate and call out challenges such as deeply entrenched anti-Blackness and other forms of racism. Today, we invite you to listen and consider what we are proposing because we truly believe this will help us move away from oppressive practices and account for the whole intersectional student experience.
Sorry. So textbooks remain a fundamental part of our educational network, our framework. However, we face a significant challenge. Textbooks are expensive, and this is not a new problem. According to the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, since 2006, the cost of college textbooks has skyrocketed. This sharp rise in prices makes textbooks unaffordable for many students, particularly those most vulnerable. This disparity undermines our commitment to educational equity. While many students at OC may afford or can afford these materials, a portion of the student body cannot. And it's essential to recognize that these are not just numbers, these are barriers. Barriers that are preventing students from accessing high demand courses necessary to complete their professional and technical degree programs. This is not acceptable. This is what compels us to seek solutions that address these inequities directly.
While the whole student account is important, we we understand that the data behind the scene is equally relevant and worth the time. That about 38% of students from Olympic College benefit from financial aid, which is more than a quarter of the student body. This is a sizable number of students depending on financial aid that should not be ignored. Furthermore, average cost of textbook is an estimated to be about 105 and 35 cents, while an undergrad student pays between $339 to $600 in one academic year. This data is not limited to only one student, but rather a summation of experiences of different students who have purchased textbooks before. Finally, we also have a study done by Old Dominion, which reflects that 75% of students felt that buying course material is extremely unreasonable. For students to debate if course material is valuable or not demonstrates how textbooks have been a barrier for students, hindering their success. Now, Olympic College and our team proposed the solution to utilize open education resources, or OER, in the classroom setting. And we understand and believe in the potential of it as an avenue that is affordable, accessible, and e-learning design focused. We recognize that there are other solutions, but we want to focus on OER as a solution for Olympic College because during the process of gathering this data, I have personally interviewed influential people on campus and that also believe that this issue could be managed better through open education resources. Based on these conversations, we believe that OER can lead to new opportunities that create access to many students, support student success, their learning capabilities, and most importantly, meeting students where they are, academically and financially.
This brings us to an exciting opportunity for change. Our team believes in the potential of OER as a means of providing equal access to knowledge and in pursuing those ends. Open educational resources are offered freely and openly available for everyone. The best known are the Creative Commons licenses, which basically provide legal mechanisms to ensure that people retain acknowledgement for their work. And this also allows them to reuse, share, adapt, and distribute these resources with few or no restrictions, unless, of course, they wish otherwise. In concluding this presentation, I hope that you can see that expensive textbooks is costing us our academic success. This is why we believe in the potential of OER as a means of providing equal access to knowledge, acknowledging that while OER is not a universal solution, it does offer more inclusive and is more financially feasible. This approach aligns well with OC's existing infrastructure because it meets students' needs, students' academic and financial needs. Sharing this experience with all of you and participating in this fellowship highlights the immediate access to resources, enriches our learning experiences, and enables us to have deeper discussions about and having unobstructed by financial constraints. This is, I believe, exactly what equity work looks like. And by prioritizing equity, we can aim to foster a more inclusive educational environment that resonates with our community's values and drives substantial progress towards a culture of equity for all. On behalf of Raji, myself, and I, and the OC team, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Christina and Raji. Very good. Brendan, go ahead.
Hey folks, Brendan Taga. I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs here at OC. Congratulations to the OC team. Great presentation. I don't know if you all have been in touch with also the VP of Instruction, but OC actually is one of the top promoters and adopters of OER in the state for our SBCTC system. And in the fall, we had some forums to discuss our next directions with the bookstore, and so and revisiting our relationship with Barnes and Noble. And so we're going to be making some decisions shortly around that. But if any of you would like to have a conversation with us, please reach out. I have your email, so I'll email you also, but would love to extend the conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brendan. Do you want to respond, Raji?
Yes, and the reason why we chose this topic is because I learned that we are renewing our contract with the bookstore, and that's why we want to push this so that there's more voices that the faculty hear from the student side.
Yeah, the president had announced that we are going to renew for a year, so we have more time to make a final decision. But it is only for that short term, and then we're going to be making a different decision around whether or not we operate our own bookstore.
Thank you. Kelsey?
Yeah, I mean, this is my team. I'm so proud of you guys. I think I also know how far y'all came because your whole team found this like enormous body of work and research and everything, and the way you distilled it down and like hit that topic home. I mean, clearly like the response, I'm so pleased to hear from Brendan. That's so exciting. Like that's what this is all about. So make sure make sure y'all follow up, make sure because this is, yeah, this is so exciting. I'm I know that takes a lot too. I'm so proud. You guys, yeah, y'all did awesome.
And I just want to offer a quick word too. I forgot to raise my hand. I apologize, but I think that it's important, right? So folks who have been in these spaces, like Brendan, know that we can have these conversations forever. We can have meeting after meeting about what the students think about these processes that ostensibly are made to serve them, or these policies that are supposed to eliminate barriers for them. But oftentimes we forget to include students in the conversation. So I'm just so elated, right? Because we think we know. I've been a student for 30 years, right? But we think we know what it is that y'all need. So I'm so elated that Brendan has extended the opportunity. And I know this group, they're going to take you up on it. So be ready to get responses in those emails. And so it's beautiful when you see that level of synchronicity, because it can build towards solidarity. And again, that solidarity dividend that Heather McGee talked about, that we've talked about before, that is actually unstoppable. It's an irresistible force. So keep me in the loop. I want to see how this is going to turn out, because I know that with your input, all of your input at your respective colleges, all the discussions will be better for it. So I appreciate y'all stepping up, because there's people who get paid a lot of money, y'all are students, to sit in meetings. I used to be one of these people and have these conversations and then come out scratching our head. I think that we can actually make some moves based on the recommendation that y'all are making. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Great work, team. We're going to move to our final team, Skagit Valley College. Take it away.
Hi, thank you all. I'm going to share the screen real quick.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if you can see me very well. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm a student here at Skagit Valley College, and we are going to be presenting our issue with our financial policy. I'm working with Clinton Miller and Teresa Santos. We are going to speak about the equity issue here at Skagit. We believe that certain student groups are facing an unequal burden in receiving financial aid and support. I personally started retraining here as well, and it took me 2 years on a child wait list to get childcare. So my first quarter ended up with my first academic warning due to not having childcare, and then receiving some consequences from financial aid. We are going to hear from Teresa Santos next on her experience here.
Hello, my name is Teresa. I graduated from high school in 2015. After graduation, I was super excited to go to college because as an older sister, I felt I needed to be a great example for my younger siblings. Growing up as a first generation student, I faced a lot of challenges in college because I didn't have anyone to guide me, especially my parents not being familiar with college life made it difficult for me to even explain it to them, because myself, I didn't even know what was I expecting. Understanding what was FAFSA was another vocabulary for me. Understanding how to get financial aid was tough. The process often took a long time, leaving me uncertain about my future. When I struggled in English classes, it was even harder for me because English isn't my first language, it's my third language. Having to write a letter and to get it signed by a counselor when I failed made me feel even more lost, because I was working full-time job. At the same time, I almost passed all my classes with A's and B's, and failed English class with a C minus. My second time, I failed it again with a D. Getting my financial aid taken away because I didn't meet a certain GPA was tough for me. I eventually decided to leave college because I didn't know how to advocate for myself, and I felt it was just too much for me to handle. This experience made me realize how important it is for financial aid system to make it simple, and for students like me to have extra support in how to advocate for ourselves. 10 years later, I decided to come back because I just don't want to be another number of students who struggle and never spoke out for themselves, and decided to never come back.
I want to thank Teresa for advocating now, not just for herself, but for other students as well, to show why this policy is in need of review. The problem we see here in number 2 on this slide is earning a quarterly 2.5 GPA or higher. This policy is unique among the 34 community colleges or technical colleges here in Washington State. While it is a uniform standard, we will show you how it's contributing to educational inequalities and likely causing higher dropout rates among students from historically marginalized racial groups. And Other colleges like our school should not approach this like healthcare. It should not be uniform. It should be individual for our students because they are all different. This data here on this slide comes from the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Study, which included more than 350,000 students from approximately 3,100 colleges and universities across the United States. On this graph, you can see how a uniform 2.5 quarterly GPA requirement is disproportionately impacting within our student body. While the white and Asian students have around 10% chance to be under a 2.5 GPA, the other groups have a higher chance to be under and not meeting the standard of a 2.5 GPA. We would like to present the data from Skagit Valley College. We were told this request would take too much time, 4 to 6 months during our current issue with financial aid policies and their procedures. That said, an earlier student aid study highlights that there's potential consequences in this policy.
So while the other slide focused on undergrads, this data is presented from students who had graduated with a bachelor's degree, and it follows them for 10 years. So, I'm sorry, 1 second. We don't have time to present all the information on this slide, but we want to highlight a couple of things. First, Black graduates were 20% less likely than white graduates to have purchased a home within a decade after graduating. The home ownership disparity shown here is likely connected to the 15% greater likelihood for Black graduates to borrow to complete their degree. Furthermore, on average, they were borrowing about 65% more than their white peers. We do not suggest all of this is due to denying financial aid based on GPA, but it is easy to see how it can contribute to this outcome. If Skagit Valley College wants to better serve its students, we do have a suggestion. This is Edmonds College's policy, which exemplifies a student-oriented approach to raising GPA and pacing. Here, any new requirement given to the student will reflect the student's current situation rather than an arbitrary standard that they're forced to meet. We will demonstrate how these plans differ on the next slide, but the main difference is that this plan, or plans like it, give students time to adapt. In this example, we see a student progressively improving their GPA, but they will need to do three consecutive petitions for reinstatement and likely be told that they must meet satisfactory academic progress on their own at SVC after their third petition. And that is assuming that they can weather the imposter syndrome that cycles like this are likely to promote. Under a policy like Edmonds, the same student would only need to apply for reinstatement once. Additionally, this student would never feel like they're failing to meet standards and would feel more accepted in this new environment. Not only that, the student would be congratulated each quarter for their progress, motivating them rather than punishing them. And that's an important point. In the third and fourth quarter, this student is being punished by SVC's policy, not for anything that they're doing wrong now, but for what happened 6 or 9 months ago. And it is completely disregarding the student's current efforts. Lastly, I just want to say we have not put this together to advocate for a specific policy for SVC. Instead, we want to see that SVC reviews the policy and implements changes that show compassion and continuing support for their students. We also support ideas like mentors or success coaches that are introduced at enrollment and persist throughout the student's time at Skagit. If used well, these partnerships will not just help the students succeed, but will help the college stay in touch with what students need. Thank you for your time.
Wow. Wow, great. I'd like to open it up to the audience for any comments or questions. Sorry, I can't see. Okay.
Raji, were you saying something? I you're muted.
You have a couple of comments in the chat. Jeremiah?
I have a question. So in working through this process, and this is fantastic presentation, all these presentations were incredible. And this is, I'll open with this question to Clinton and Jasmine, but anyone can answer this question. What did you learn about yourself in this process with regard to how you work to identify a question, right? Because there's so many things that you could have tried to address. And then what did you learn throughout the process, whether it be around collaboration? I don't want to lead y'all too much. So what did you learn about yourself? Not just the problem. What did you learn about yourself in this process?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think I'd heard stories about students going through this process, but I was never really spun up on it myself. Like I haven't had issues with financial aid, thankfully, because my GPA is high enough and I can, I'm a little privileged, right? I can say that. I think what I learned is that, we really need to listen to the voices around us, and we need to take it seriously and investigate the problems that they're raising.
I agree. And I actually found a lot of responses that when we conducted our survey, which was very small because we had some technical difficulties here on campus. We work on island time, and it could take months to years to get responses from people. But there were a lot of students that did reply to us, and they kind of told us stories about, there was times where, let's just say, like, their disability check didn't get accepted by the college, which made their financial aid not pay for their classes. And there was so many stories like that where somebody had a baby and then they lost all their financial aid because they didn't enroll in classes in time. So understanding that there were a lot of similarities and, life happens was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. There was one other hand up. I'd missed who that was. Did you want to make a comment? Okay. Well, thank you so much. That concludes the 4 presentations for the event, and I am going to pass it back over to Nekaycha to close us out.
Alrighty, that was an amazing presentation from everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you guys learned something. For those that had representation from their specific college, hopefully you guys reach out and are able to establish a working relationship of including student voices within everything that you do. And hopefully students, fellows, congratulations. You guys have worked so hard, and I'm just lost for words of just all the data and everything you've done on your impact projects. I hope that you've learned something. I hope that not only on a policy level or campus level, but also just internal, like that you've learned things that you can take with you throughout day-to-day at your job and just within your community to spark impactful change everywhere you go. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for a wonderful 2024 symposium. Everybody just unmute and let's just say, woo! Ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo!